All right, man, as you can see, I'm out here on the water. I was tog fishing earlier and just got absolutely embarrassed. Not one hit. It's so cold, man. I mean, the air temp right now with wind chill is probably high 30s. And the water's at 42, so we're not quite there yet. But since I figured I'm already out in the water, I'd play around with this. It's called a Go Fish Cam. It's essentially an underwater camera. I'm really excited to try it out this season. I think I'm gonna get some really cool footage off of it. And I also got a handful of lures that Okuma sent me. I got a bunch of them, but I brought out a select handful. So I figured I'd test out the camera and kind of get the action of the lures underwater and see how they look. So let's give it a shot. All right, first up we have the Hormel Mac Attack swim bait. As you can see, it's one of those jointed swim baits that has really good movement when you troll it or reel it in. This is a very popular type of lure, the canal for stripers. And yeah, as you see, it has really good side-to-side motion. These come in a bunch of different colors. I think this is the mackerel color. So mostly what I'm going to be using this lure for is trolling, and hopefully because of the bigger size profile, I can get bigger striped bass to hit. And I'm sure bluefish would destroy this thing too. All right, next up we got the Mad Eel, and these come in a bunch of different colors and a bunch of different sizes. If you watch my channel, you know I love using soft plastics for striped bass, so I'm really excited for this lure. I'm gonna be using this a lot. If I see a blitz, I usually throw a soft plastic in, so for that scenario, and just blind casting for stripers, so this lure is gonna get a lot of use this season. And not gonna lie, I had a lot of trouble keeping this lure in the frame of the camera for whatever reason. But as you can see, and when I slow it down here, it's got a really good like wobble motion, and mix that with the motion of the paddle tail. Looks like it's going to be a pretty deadly lure for stripers and bluefish. And if you get the heavier versions, it's pretty easy to jig on the bottom. So you never know, if you're using a smaller one, you could get black sea bass or scup or maybe even fluke to hit this thing if you're jigging it. So it's a pretty solid lure. All right, up next we got the Minnow jerkbait, and as you can see, it's got a big old lip on it, so that's going to give it some really good side-to-side movement. And yeah, again, I kind of had trouble keeping this one in the frame, so it's a little off camera, but you get the idea of how it works. Good, really good wobbling side-to-side movement, and again, these come in a bunch of different colors, so I'm thinking if I get an all silver, it kind of looks like a Rapala, whatever you call it, X-Wrap. Which is really good for targeting bonito. So I think this lure I'm mostly going to be using for trolling, and that's going to be when bonito and maybe even albies are around. But I've had good luck last season using these types of lures for bonito, so I'm excited to try that out. Up next is the wing stick bait, and this kind of has the look and feel of a topwater spook, but these are slow sinking. So these are going to be perfect for if there's a lot of bluefish mixed into blitz. I hate throwing soft plastics when there's bluefish around because they're just going to tear it to shreds. So if I'm stuck on a lot of bluefish, this is probably going to be one of the first lures I throw out. And it already comes rigged with single hooks, which is awesome because treble hooks and bluefish and their teeth, they just don't mix. So I'm really excited for this lure. I'm sure stripers will hit it, but like I said, when I find bluefish, I'm throwing out hard plastics because I don't want to lose my soft plastics. And yeah, as you can see, it's got that good wobble, good side-to-side movement. If fish are actively feeding, or if this goes by a fish's face, it's definitely going to hit it. So excited to add this one to the arsenal. All right, up next is the Carnata Slow Pitch Jig. This is, hence the name, I'm mostly going to be using for jigging. Black sea bass, scup, and maybe if I throw some squid on the end of these two hooks, maybe even fluke. And yeah, I'm still playing around with the camera, getting a feel for the extra weight and jigging, so I make sure the lure stays on camera, but you get a pretty good look at how this lure is going to work. Like I said, throw 2 squid strips on the end of that, and I really think you can crush, scup, sea bass, and like I said, maybe even a fluke, if you get it right by them, will hit this. So I'm excited to jig this up and see what I can pick up on the underwater camera with this lure. And lastly, we have the Carnata Flutter Jig. And as you can tell by the appearance, it's like a small silver appearance, kind of like an epoxy jig, like a bigger size version of an epoxy jig. So I'm thinking if I'm on a big school of albies or bonito, try throwing one of these out and just give it a really fast retrieve. And I think it has potential if the albies aren't crazy picky to pick up these finicky hardtails. And yeah, as you can see, it's got really good side-to-side motion. So I'm thinking if albies are feeding really heavy, and this goes right by them, you got potential to hook up. And also, you can catch a lot of bass and bluefish on this thing if they're feeding, if they're dialed in on, like, say, peanut bunker, a smaller size bait. This might be a good lure to chuck out and see if you can get them to hit. Alright, and here's some bonus footage from my failed tog outing. Water was just too cold. It was at 42 degrees. We need to get closer to 48, but we are literally days away from fresh fish moving in. So hopefully next time you see the shot of the jig and crab dropping, you're going to see just a pile of blackfish going crazy on it. I'm super excited to get back out there and just make some new content, man, so it won't be long now. So get your gear ready. Fish are on their way.